Former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani is joining us now to weigh in on this. Neama, thank you for being with us this morning.
Of course. Thanks for having me, as always.
Yeah, so news of this possible confession on the Discord app. Tell us what prosecutors need to prove here and if you feel like that confession would hold up in court.
I think it will hold up in court. This case becomes stronger by the day. We've obviously seen the surveillance video. Now we have confessions both after the murder as well as some admissions before the murder, where Tyler Robinson is talking about dropping the firearm that was used in the execution of Charlie Kirk. And of course, we've all seen the surveillance video. And just yesterday, FBI Director Patel said that Robinson's DNA was found on the towel that was used to wrap the rifle, as well as the screwdriver that was left behind at the scene. So I expect there to be more biometric evidence to come out, like fingerprints, palm prints, shoe prints. And really, the question is not who did this, but what will Robinson's sentence be? And now the state of Utah has 60 days to provide notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
Well, that's along those lines. What factors do prosecutors consider when deciding whether or not to pursue that death penalty charge?
Well, they're looking at the aggravating factors. So obviously the fact that this was plotted, planned, premeditated, that's going to be an aggravating factor. The fact that Robinson shot into a crowd of people. I mean, he hit Kirk, but he could easily have killed someone else. The fact that this was seemingly done for political reasons and maybe a domestic act of terrorism. Now, on the other hand, the defense is going to point to what they are going to argue are the mitigating factors. His young age, he's only 22, he has no criminal history. Here's someone who really at least turned himself in. He didn't lead law enforcement on a day or week-long manhunt. So that's something that they're going to say cuts in favor of a life sentence. So that's really going to be the big question in this case, not whether he did it or not, but what the sentence will be. Can the defense convince the prosecution or 12 men and women to spare his life?
All right, we're going to continue to follow that case. Another big case we're following and have an update on Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We actually have breaking news in this case just moments ago. The New York judge just dismissed state terrorism charges, but kept the second-degree murder charges. Of course, Mangione was facing nearly a dozen charges in this case. Talk about, are you surprised to see that terrorism charge drop?
I am surprised because it seems like Luigi Mangione did this for political reasons as well. We know what he engraved on the shell casings that killed the United Healthcare CEO. He had the manifesto on his possession when he was arrested in Pennsylvania. New York law is unique in that premeditation is not by itself enough to get first-degree murder and get a life sentence there. You need something more, and terrorism is one of the ways that you can get there. Of course, New York does not have the death penalty, but federal prosecutors have filed their own sets of charges, and they are seeking the death penalty in the federal case. Of course, today's hearing is just in state court there in New York.
So if Mangione uses a mental health defense here, how does that shape the strategy for both sides?
It's very hard because to show a mental health defense or an insanity defense, you really have to show because of some defect, you don't really understand the nature and consequences of your action. Basically, you don't know right from wrong. And someone who's as sophisticated as he was, obviously he's by all accounts very smart, he was very articulate, it's very hard to meet that high legal burden. So I understand the defense has to defend the case, but I think ultimately, if you're a death penalty qualified lawyer, it doesn't matter if we're talking about Luigi Mangione or Tyler Robinson or anyone like Brian Koberger. If you keep your client alive, that's a win. I can't really see any circumstance where the defense is going to get a not guilty in that case. Now, they may get a hung jury because there are a lot of people that are sympathetic to what he did, and you might see jury nullification in the case, but an outright acquittal, I don't think it's possible.
Okay, Neama Rahmani, we will keep watching both of these cases, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too.